Last but not least, we'll be hearing from Chase Irwin from the Milwaukee Graduate Assistants Association.
I'm going to go ahead and raise these lights. I unfortunately have no presentation, but I don't like to talking to people in the dark. I'm also going to, as a return the favor for inviting me here, I'm going to keep this as short as possible because I'm assuming that most of us, myself included, probably want to get down to the protest at, what park is that at, Andy?
Riverside Park?
Riverside Park, yeah.
Yeah, the one by the Little Caesars.
The one by the Little Caesars, which starts in less than an hour. So I am going just to talk to you guys very briefly today about the Milwaukee Graduate Assistants Association, who we are, what we represent, and kind of our recent activities surrounding, specifically surrounding a pay raise campaign for GAs on the UWM campus. I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Chase Irwin. This is my second term. I'm serving my second term as president of the MGAA. And I am, with Andy, doctoral student in the English department. I'm also a TA. This year, I am teaching 2 sections of English 101, or this semester, I should say. So what is the Milwaukee Graduate Assistants Association? The Milwaukee Graduate Assistants Association was formed in the early 90s. We organized initially to represent the needs and to voice the frustrations of graduate assistants in 2 categories specifically, teaching assistants and project assistants. Teaching assistants, of course, are graduate employees, the university that, just let her finish. Graduate employees of the university who assist in teaching classes, either by leading discussion sections, grading, teaching their own freestanding courses, as Andy and I do, and project assistants simply help out, oftentimes in clerical positions in various academic centers across campus, which UW Milwaukee proudly has hundreds, I would imagine. I mean, I know that in LNS alone there are over 50. So we began by representing project assistants and teaching assistants at the university. After organizing in the 90s, the MGAA built its political strength, its ability to advocate for its bargaining unit, winning several significant gains for GAs, among these tuition remission for, in exchange for our labor, the same health benefits largely as other university employees, and most notably in 1998, an official collective bargaining relationship with the state of Wisconsin. This means that we had the legal right to enter into a process of negotiation with the state in order to secure certain benefits in our contract. This right was rescinded along with the collective bargaining rights of all public sector unions in the state of Wisconsin as a result of the passing of the budget repair bill in 2011, specifically the clause of that bill that has now come to ubiquitously be known as Act 10, right? So the status of the union currently is that although we still very proudly and fiercely advocate publicly for better working conditions for graduate employees, we are no longer recognized officially by the state of Wisconsin as a bargaining unit, right? We have no legal relationship with the state, so all of our activity is generated towards a lot like the things that your organizations do. All of our activity is generated towards improving the kind of like the working conditions for graduate students at UWM through various forms of what we call direct action, right? Public protests. We had several grade-ins last semester. We intend to have more this semester. The circulation of petitions, informal negotiations with the university administration, et cetera, et cetera. In this, we sat down about 2 years ago and thought, we decided, okay, if we are going to present ourselves as still viable representatives for graduate students, graduate assistants on campus, we need to reorganize graduate students around an issue that we thought was kind of widespread and ubiquitous enough to kind of revive graduate assistants' belief in their union, its viability, and its relevance for their lives. The issue that we came up with is the issue of pay. Statistically, graduate assistants at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee are some of, I don't think we can claim the lowest spot. We are certainly some of the lowest paid in the country. This is a system-wide phenomenon, right? Graduate students, we do not have parity, just as an example, we don't have parity currently with the University of Wisconsin-Madison, but they are only paid on a yearly basis a couple of $1,000s more than we are, right? So this is a system that generally, in terms of national averages, kind of underpays its graduate students. On top of this, the graduate school in 2012 released a pretty damning report of the university. This report was organized by a group called the Graduate Assistance Working Group. These were professors that went through, and what they did was they compared the average pay of graduate assistants at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee to what they termed peer institutions. How is this defined? A peer institution is simply the institutions at which our professors got their PhDs, right? So they went back and they looked at the institutions in which they earned their PhDs, saw what they were paying their graduate students, also compared some of these figures with various national averages, and the results were disturbing. They found that amongst UW-Milwaukee's peer institutions, graduate students were consistently paid about $2,000 less than graduate assistants at other universities. This is not shocking or offensive, but where this really got kind of raw is when they began to look at the fact that over 50% of PAs and over 30% of TAs working as master's students, the master's student level of pay, were working below the federal poverty line, and an even greater percent on average qualified for food stamps. Okay, clearly we can see why this is highly problematic information for a university administration, right? Especially one that, like the University of Milwaukee is so many times touted, is trying to raise its profile to become some kind of nationally or even internationally competitive public urban university. I mean, essentially this report kind of implicated that UWM was very slowly becoming something like the Walmart of higher education, right, to use a rather kind of crude analogy, in the sense that this was an institution that habitually underpaid employees who then turned around and depended on public assistance to make ends meet, and this kind of like cycle of this kind of like very ironic cycle of poverty is created. We sat down, the union sat down and crunched some numbers, and we determined that in response to the report of the Graduate Assistance Working Group, in order to get GAs kind of generally where they need to be in terms of, so the university on the one hand can be competitive in terms of national averages, and on the other hand we can pull the people running our project centers and teaching our classes out of some kind of abject poverty, where they're drawing on food stamps or whatnot, or accruing massive amounts of debt. In the same way that a lot of undergraduates unfortunately are. We determined that in order to move beyond this, the university across the board would have to give GAs about a 14% raise. Okay. So this was the number that we generated to kind of brand the campaign. Another number that was circulated, and this is very incidental, even though it's a lot more convenient, beside the 14%, is a 14% raise would bring a non-dissertating doctoral student, right? Which I believe you're in that category, right? This is kind of like the average, right? Master's students get paid less. Non-dissertating doctoral students like Andy, they get paid in the middle. And dissertating doctoral students, even though I have not written a word of my dissertation, I proudly say I'm a dissertating doctoral students, we get paid the most, right? So there's kind of like a series of increases built into your progress towards degree. But another number that was circulated was that this middle range, the non-dissertating doctoral student, a 14% raise would bring their pay up to $15,000 a year. Right? And so we began calling this the 15K campaign, right? Pay us a living wage, we want 15K. With that, we began to circulate petitions among the faculty, undergraduate population, members of the community, graduate students themselves. We began to organize, to build up our ranks. The more graduate students who are signed with and committed to being union activists, the more kind of like general political capital we have. We passed a resolution in the faculty senate calling for this 14% raise and calling on the chancellor at the time level, now Monet, and the provost, Johannes Britz, to address this issue. With relative success, right? We have been, the organization has been in pretty regular talks with both the chancellor and the provost for about a year now about the issue. Chancellor Monet announced in his staff meeting, his first staff meeting at the beginning of the semester, that his highest priority this year was securing more funding to give raises to university employees, specifically GAs, because of kind of the way that we've been, especially since Act 10, kind of like ignored, because we've had no real advocacy beside the union. It's going great. It's going really well. I've been really pleased with the support we've gotten from faculty, from some administrators, even though, God, can't trust these people as far as you can throw them. I think that our members made a really compelling argument and have convinced them that, at least for right now, they should be on our side. We've gotten support from undergraduate students, overwhelming support from undergraduate students. What we lack now, I think, and what kind of like where the MGAA is at in our struggle, if you were going to like use those specific terms, in our struggle is that we still don't, kind of ironically, we still don't have the support of graduate students themselves that we need in order for any representative political organization to have any kind of power. They have to have the support, the active support and presence of the people that they represent. So the MGA's goal this year is to very aggressively organize, right? To get graduate students on board, to get them signed with the union, to get them not just members, but active members showing up to events. Because in order to make any of these campaigns reality, and specifically this 15% raise, we need some real political capital backing us. Because all we have right now is just kind of like the tenuous interest of some administrators who see, like, because of the way we presented this clever rhetorical tricks that Andy and I have sit and concocted, who kind of see there being some kind of like direct benefit to them for raising graduate students' pay. It's like, oh, we can raise the quality of undergraduate education, we can raise the profile of the university, make it more competitive, et cetera, et cetera. This only goes so far, right? Because it's not real political pressure, it's just good ideas. So we need a solid backing of the people that we support and who we represent. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We need graduate students on our side. Undergrads, you guys have been great. You guys have been fabulous these last couple of years. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know what to say specifically, for you guys. I'd be happy to answer any questions, explain anything further. There's a lot of really kind of dense and boring, bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo that might be unpacked, kind of understand in more specificity where this idea is at. It's kind of crawling up the chain right now. The chancellor's got it. He's going to pass it on to Ray Cross, the system president. They're going to chew on it and bat it back and forth. But yeah, none of this progress is going to come to anything fruitful. And it, like so many good ideas and initiatives that get introduced to the leadership of this system, will die unless there is real political pressure coming from actual people, bodies in the street. And that's what the MGAA hopes to, revive kind of like that civic spirit amongst graduate assistants at this university and get them to go out and fight for better working conditions. Really all I have. Does anybody have any specific, any questions? They don't have to be specific questions, they can be very general, yes.
Do you happen to know what the trends in the salaries for TAs and GAs have been before Act 10 and after Act 10? Like, do you know what the trends were? Like, has it increased or decreased?
I do. That's another bureaucratic thing that very much informs what's going on here. The trend was that, surprise, surprise, before Act 10, TAs and PAs at this university relatively received the basic kind of cost of living salary increases that the faculty at this university received. The system has specific cash accounts, right, that they keep exactly for this purpose. Any bureaucracy that's got its shit together, that's worth its salt or whatever, right, will have cash reserves available to give periodic raises to its employees, right, in order to keep up with cost of living, right? This is just common sense, because if you let that go too long, then all your employees are going to bail and go to other places, right, which happens a lot at the university already, because even though they certainly make more than graduate students, as they should, the faculty here are also pretty statistically underpaid on average, right? Before Act 10, the MGAA, or the TAA in Madison's case, had an official bargaining relationship with system, where they could simply be like, oh, hey, remember that raise we need along with the professors, right? And it's, these are minuscule, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, whatever. But it's enough to make sure that the cost of living didn't exceed our salaries, at least, right? After Act 10, this official relationship was dissolved, and the university did, unlike Madison too, the university did absolutely nothing to compensate for this. Graduate students at this university, graduate assistants specifically at this university, still do not have any official representation within the university's shared governance as employees, right? And the story we get told is, oh, you need to either work with GSAC, which represents graduate students generally, and therefore very little use to us, or even less use the SA, right? It's nothing against the SA, right? I mean, I have lots of friends on the SA. I served on the SA for a long time. But the point is that graduate assistance, in terms of the concerns of these two organizations, is a very small kind of concern, right? So in order for graduate assistants to have any kind of official representation to the administration, we have to reorganize as a kind of like solid, independent political organization. We need a union, right? That can go to the university and be like, oh, hey, you forgot even the most minuscule kind of cost of living increase raises, because we haven't gotten any since 2007, I believe. We haven't, except for there was this very small 1% raise that the graduate school scraped together some money to afford us about a year ago, but even that, most of that went to RAs, who are a very, very small part of the GA population. I mean, you're talking about 10% of the overall GA population. So part of that answer is that our pay has become stagnant because there is no union. But even in the short term, one of the things this union has accomplished, even if this huge, like 14% pay increase doesn't come around, we've at least accomplished the fact that the administrators of this university remember that we exist and realize, oh, graduate students haven't been getting any cost of living increase raises along with the rest of the university employees since Act 10, right? So we are at least no longer forgotten. It's like, hey, yeah, we exist. We're teaching like a third of the classes on this campus. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Other questions? It would take about, this is one thing I do want to say, because I'm very proud of myself for being able to understand these numbers. I'm English through and through, right? I don't do math. But I have a very good friend that calculated the numbers for us, just to give you kind of an idea of the kind of the financial burden we're placing on the university by asking for this 14% raise. This would require about, and this is generous, because it's more than the number the MGAA came with and more than the number than the CFO of the university came up with. But the nice, even round number that we're taking to Madison is that we need a $2 million budget expansion to give graduate assistants a 14% raise. To give you an idea of what this looks like in terms of the rest of the budget, that's 0.6% of the budget that the university uses to fund salaries for its non-classified staff. 0.6%, right? Which is a number that I like to throw out because whenever I say $2 million, people are like, oh, $2 million? They could never afford that. Oh my God, that's chump change for this university.
Do you know what percent that is of the total state budget?
Oh, I wish. God, it's got to be minuscule, man.
Yeah, it's got to be very, very small.
I'm sure it's a minuscule, it's probably a minuscule percentage of the, the actual account that the system uses to fund the regular cost of living increase wages. And that's what I like to counter when people are always, well, where's the money going to come from? A little bit here, a little bit there. You know, Jesus, it's not that much. Okay, well, if you guys don't have anything, then thanks. Let's go take back the night, guys. We have about an hour or a half an hour before, but.
All right, thanks everyone for coming out.